this book in my hand is not worth £800,000, but it is based on this book, published in 1599, and this one, published in 1625. The book that was in my hand is called The First Englishmen in India, published in 1930 by J.C. Locke. This is a first edition, making it a 95-year-old copy. The book tells us that the first Englishmen in India weren't conquerors or diplomats. They were explorers and desperate traders. Our story starts in the late 1500s, when England was a minor player in world trade and East had all the treasures. But Portuguese were the gatekeepers to all these riches. So, in 1583, two wealthy English merchants, Osborne and Staper, made a team of John Eldred, John Newbery, Ralph Fitch, and a couple of other merchants aboard a merchant ship called Tiger, and sent them from Britain to India and Burma via Tripoli, Syria, Baghdad, and Ormuz. Fun fact, Shakespeare's Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 3, alludes to this trip from Britain to Syria. Another interesting fact is that two of these merchants, John Eldred and Ralph Fitch, met with other merchants in the Founders' Hall in London in 1599 and acted as consultants in the founding of the East India Company. Their stories are full of adventure, like trades in the Middle East, imprisonment in Goa, meeting with the Mughal Emperor Akbar, and much more. Their travels took them to Ujjain, Agra, Varanasi, Bengal, and many places in southern India. In the upcoming videos, we will hear about their interesting perspectives on how they looked at India, its customs and grandeur. Until then, stay curious. In the last video, we saw that the ship carrying the heroes of our story, Eldred, Newbery, and Fitch, leaves Gravesend in Britain in 1583 and arrives in Lebanon. From here, they walk to Aleppo in Syria, where traders from various regions of the world conducted business in peace. The protagonists of our story bought some amber here and some broken glass, as Syria was famous for it back then. They took their merchandise and reached Al-Fallujah in Iraq via Turkey and bartered their goods for milk, bread, and eggs with the local Arabs. The Englishmen, interestingly, described the local women as looking like vagabond gypsies, with rings in their noses and hoops of gold and silver in their arms and feet. The next stop on their route was Babylon, today's Baghdad, where goods like woolen cloth, tin, silk, spices like nutmeg, cinnamon, pepper, etc. came from the Southeast Asia. Here they encounter Venetian merchants who had brought with them, among diverse merchandise, some yak tail, also known as chowries, from Sindh. These symbolized authority and divinity, were used in Christian religious ceremonies, and became prized luxury items among Italian nobility due to their rarity and association with the mystical East. They moved to Balsara next, in Iraq, via the Euphrates River, and encounter several ships from India carrying indigo dye and calicut cloth. From Balsara to Bahrain, they reach Hormuz in Iran and get captured by the Portuguese. But why? And what happens next? We will see in the upcoming video. Stay curious. We saw in the last video that the English merchants were captured in Ormuz. This happened because Queen Elizabeth I of England was using Don Antonio of Spain to manipulate her way into the East Indies, which was the hold of the Portuguese king Philip II. So naturally, the Portuguese thought that these English merchants were Queen's spies and ordered them to be jailed. Their destination was Goa, a Portuguese stronghold. The ship dropped them off at Daman. They walked to Bassein, today's Vasai, Thana, today's Thana, and Chaul, which is in the Raigad district, which, as they mention, is a trading spot for sandalwood, ivory, silk, and palm sugar. In terms of religion, they talk about cow worship, killing as sin, vegetarianism, and even hospitals for animals. I want to remind you that this is 1500s that we are talking about. Once they reach the bustling town of Goa, they are imprisoned with a bond of 400 pounds. But the Jesuit priests there tried to lure them into joining their order and giving away their profits from their trades in order to get them released. It was the priority of the Jesuits to gather as many funds as possible for their order, but their plan failed because not only the Englishmen refused to join them, they also ran away from the jail after 13 days in captivity. One Englishman, however, chose to join the priests and became a painter for their churches. Later, he opened his own shop and settled in Goa after marrying a mestizo, a Portuguese term for half-caste. From Goa, they headed to Belgaum, which was a significant market for gemstones. They started moving upwards and encountered child marriage and heard about Sati. Interestingly, they never describe seeing Sati throughout the book. They witness a great cotton market in Ujjain and Sironj in Madhya Pradesh. And finally, they reach the grand cities of Agra and Fatehpur to meet the Mughal Emperor Akbar. In the next video, we will see the letter that Queen Elizabeth had written for King Akbar and the interesting incidents that occur afterwards. Stay curious. Akbar's Fatehpur had thousands of animals and hundreds of concubines. The streets were filled with exquisite carts of silk and gold. Such was the magnificence of the place, which witnessed a trade of rubies, diamonds, and other precious stones. And all this because Queen wrote a letter to Akbar in 1583, asking for a safe passage for John Newbery and seeking permission to trade. The English merchants then moved to Prayag, where they encounter a yogi for the first time, stark naked except for his beard covering him. They are confounded by the strange Indian gods made of wood and stone, looking like lions, peacocks, and monkeys, sitting cross-legged. In Banaras, they witnessed the Gyanvapi temple, or possibly the Manikarnika Ghat, where Lord Vishnu dug a well for bathing with his Sudarshan Chakra, which was later filled with his divine perspiration. They also get to experience a unique marriage custom in Patna, which involves going in circles around a cow and gifting it to the Brahman. They learned about the art of digging up gold and the trade of opium, sugar, and cotton from Patna to the rest of the country. In Cooch Behar, they saw bitter almonds being used as a form of currency. They moved further east to Saptagram in Bengal with hundreds of boats and various commodities for trade, and come across strange Hindu practices like sacred thread of Brahmins, Dandavat Pranam, etc. But their most alarming observation for me was that some men had 7 wives. Thankfully, internet threw more light on this very limited practice. In their next leg of journey, they traverse through today's Bangladesh, Myanmar, and Sri Lanka, which I have skipped for brevity and directly jumped to their return trip to southern India. They talk about the pearl fishing near Kanyakumari, pepper and cinnamon trade of Calicut, the Nayars of Malabar fighting the Portuguese, and many sundry events. English merchants finally left India in 1589, and after a period of 8 years out of their country, they reached London in 1591. That ends our journey, but before we say goodbye, imagine you are a trader in the 1500s. Your shopping destinations would look something like this: ginger from India, cloves, nutmegs, maces, white sandal from Indonesia, camphor from China, pepper from India, Myanmar, and Javas, precious stones from Myanmar, Agra, Delhi, and Javas, and good quality pearls from Bahrain.